Hi, today I want to make a Brunswick stew. I've got some squirrels in the house I'm fixing to bring out defrosting. Initially, I was going to do this in my little backwoods camp, but we've had a lot of rain earlier this week. Most of my firewood is fairly wet. It's pretty windy today also, so although I tried earlier to do a fire out back, things just weren't cooperating. So I'm still going to do this as a base camp type of a meal, and if I were in a base camp setting, then chances are I'd be in my little 10 by 10 and walled in anyhow, so the wind wouldn't have been as much of a factor as it is right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some squirrels simmering in some chicken broth, and I'm going to use my Coleman stove, kind of like we did the other day with the waffles. Then I'm going to, after that simmers down, we'll debone the squirrel and then start with the stew. It's going to simmer for about an hour and a half, and then I'm going to give it a little bit of time to cool off and stuff before deboning it, but we'll get that started here in just a second. Oh, I did want to mention, well, I can't remember the name of the book now. I was just trying to think of it. Everything Wild Game, I think, is the name of it. Is where this recipe comes from. And I'm also going to I'm going to use a Dutch oven later on. I'm going to try to sneak this in as a cast iron Wednesday. Last month for March, stew was the topic, and so I'm going to try to sneak it in as a belated bonus cast iron Wednesday or something to that effect. But so it's a good dish, and we'll get started doing it. Okay, I hope I'm in frame. It's kind of hard to tell. This deck is on the south side of the house, and it's pretty bright out here. It's brutal in the summertime, but I've got pot, and I'm gonna. It calls for 6 cups of chicken broth. And I got 2 containers. Got my 3 squirrels, which is the last of my squirrels too. I'm going to have to, luckily squirrel season starts in about 2 weeks. And I've got probably another month or better of my layoff, so plenty of time for squirrel hunting. Hopefully I'll have more success than I have with turkey hunting. Not that I've done a lot of it. I've went out a few times, but I just haven't seen the turkey. And my property goes back this way. It's pretty good ways. Over across the ridge on this side, but back over here where I don't have permission to hunt is quite a bit of land. And I mean, I used to hear turkeys out there, but not so much anymore. I am going to just cover these up a little bit more. Alright, so that's my 3, my 3 squirrels. The recipe does not call for it, but I like to, while the squirrels are cooking, just throw some carrots in there to help give the broth a little bit more flavor. It's something I'm going to strain out when they're done. And I usually add some celery too, but would you believe the store was out of celery when we were there buying ingredients, so I'm going to just use some celery seed just to help give the broth some flavor. I usually also, the recipe never mentions it, but I usually strain the broth back out when I'm done with the squirrel, just in case there's any little hairs and stuff that I missed, or if there's a couple of shot pellets or something like that. So I'm going to let these come up to a boil and then simmer. They're going to simmer for about an hour and a half. And then we'll debone them and all that stuff and then start the stew. So doubt if I'll get back with you up until we're going to start the stew time. Okay, it has been right about an hour and a half. I've checked on it quite frequently off camera, just I'm pretty sure everything's about ready. So let's see what we've got going here. Yeah, them little guys are looking really, really good. Oh yeah, just almost ready to fall apart right there. Okay, so I'm just going to turn these off. Set them off to the side to cool for a few minutes. And I'm going to move the stove and get some coal started for the Dutch ovens, but we'll start putting the stew together. And it'll be more interesting from here out, but just as soon as I get the squirrel deboned. Okay. Ooh, it's hot. You don't want all of them at the right time yet, but lay out a small ring. Alright, just a small little ring. One thing I do a little bit differently than what the book calls for. So that's my number 12 Dutch oven. I've got two of them very similar. I couldn't tell you anything about them other than I've had them since the early zeros or late 90s. They don't really have a name to them. They were knockoff, inexpensive ones, that much I can tell you. But they've cooked a lot of really good food, so I'm not complaining about them in any way. If anything, the legs are just a wee bit taller than like Lodge and Camp Chef and such. But I got the really light layer of lard smeared all in the oven, and that's heating up ever so lightly. I'm just going to I've got an onion cut up, chopped up lightly. Yeah, there's some that probably could have got cut up a little bit better. And 2 or 3 pieces of bacon that are also cut up. The recipe does call for it. That just throws it all in there as one part to stew together. And I'm just going to give it a couple couple 5 minutes head start before I add the rest of the stew ingredients. Once I found my lid. Oh, there's my lid. I don't know what happened to our sun. It was a pretty sunny day up until I started doing this. So I'm just going to put this off to the side here. Really not a lot has happened yet. Maybe the onions a little bit of getting it's not fried up or anything like that. It's just maybe a little softened at best. So I'm trying to do this kind of quickly just so I don't lose too much heat. But here's what I've got. I've got 2 cups of frozen lima beans, a little over 2 cups of frozen corn, and it calls for 2 potatoes. I had 3 little red potatoes, and they were little, so I went ahead and used the 3 little red potatoes I had plus 1 russet. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. Little pieces of bacon that didn't make it the last time. And the chicken broth, well, now squirrel broth, I did strain it, and it is still kind of lukewarm maybe at best. 3 squirrel. It doesn't amount to much by the time you debone it and everything, but that is all boneless, little, anyhow, it's all pure meat. And 28-ounce can of fire roasted tomatoes is what I went with. It was just supposed to be a 28-ounce can of tomatoes, but I just thought fire roasted would make it all that much better. And that's pretty much all the book calls for ingredients. Oh wait, I take that back. A tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, ish. A tablespoon of brown sugar, and I went heavy on that, so it's a little bit more than a tablespoon. A little salt. We've already discussed how I don't use that much salt. And some pepper. And then here's where my own special contributions come in. That was everything that the recipe calls for. I only have 2 left, so 2 bay leaves. A little bit of sage, but that's rubbed sage, so it's not going to come out of there easily. Just a little bit of sage. A lot of times with squirrel I use, I know it looks like a lot, but it's barely coming out of the can. A lot of times with squirrel I use a lot of the same spices that you would use in chicken. Probably why everybody says it tastes like chicken. And just a little dusting of thyme. And I had a little, kind of stir it together real quick. There we go. I almost reached down there and grabbed that. That would not have been the smartest thing I would have done, would it? Okay. Put the lid on, and about half an hour until really the squirrel's already cooked. So all you're trying to do is heat up the vegetables. When the potatoes are pretty much done, that's where I'm going to call it ready. It's going to be a little bit thinner than like a beef stew or something hearty like that. My wife likes to call it a stoop, kind of half stew, half soup, and we can thicken it up a little bit. Most of the time we do. Usually make a little roux and stick it in there, thicken it up somewhat. We'll see how it's going to be, but I can tell you it's going to be a little on the thin side. It just seems to be the way this one works out. Okay, it's coming up on 20 minutes or so. Probably going to start a second batch of coals and just kind of blast everything with some upper heat for maybe an additional 15 minutes. It's chilly and windy out here, so the last I checked on it, it was steaming up, and that's a good thing. So, and I'm right in my own camera way here, so bear with me. But show you how it's coming along, and these coals are getting spent. And let me run to the other side real quick. There we go. See, it's this. It's more of a soupy stew. Stoop, as my wife likes to call it. And let me find a tater here. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near done. Oh no. Unless you like crunchy taters. So, I'm going to go ahead and cover that back up so I don't lose any more heat. Start some fresh coals. Really crunchy taters are kind of nasty. It's like a raw banana. And we'll get some, I'll probably throw all these loose coals underneath it. Get a bunch of fresh coals and put it on top. And then hit it up for another 20 minutes or so. Alright, let's take a peek here. The last I looked at it, it was doing really good. And it's been, I don't know, I just got a phone call, so it's been about 23 minutes, because I can tell you that's how long the phone call was. So, should be all good and ready now. My wife went in to make some biscuits, and then I'm just going to take a quick peek on this. Haha, look at that. Like I said, it's usually very soupy, but it looks, let's see, there's a big potato, so I'll try him. If the big ones are done, then I know the little ones are. That's very good. Okay. I'm just going to I'm going to leave that there for a few minutes until the biscuits are done, and then I would say we plate it up, but that would be messy. We'll put it in a bowl and come back here for a taste test in just a few minutes, all right? How is it?
Oh, I don't know. I was waiting for you.
Oh, okay. I know you're going to need salt, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Dude, you got your kit. Ooh.
Small doses.
That's good. Hot, but good.
That's good.
I like the fire roasted tomatoes.
Fire roasted tomatoes is a nice touch to it.
Yep.
Got a little piece of squirrel here in this one, so.
It's good. But does need salt.
Just nice and tender still. Onions still have a little bit of firmness to them. Potatoes still got a little bit of firmness to them, but not real bad.
It's good.
That's really good. Thank you. Thank you for watching this. And we'll see you next time.